The hosts feel it would be a little unkind to present this podcast without just a word of friendly warning. We are about to unfold the story of Frankenstein, a man of science who sought to create a man after his own image without reckoning upon God. It is one of the strangest tales ever told. It deals with the two great mysteries of creation, life and death. I think it will thrill you. It may shock you. It might even horrify you. So if any of you feel that you do not care to subject your nerves to such a strain, now's your chance to. Well, we've warned you. Hello, and welcome once again to the Frankencast. I'm the mad scientist, Anthony Bowman. My pronouns are he, him, and I'm joined as always by...
the bemulleted werewolf that is Eric Velasquez. My pronouns are also he, him.
Yeah, so I guess we didn't, like last week we did the video games and we didn't actually tease what we were doing this week. We kind of switched things up anyway. So another kind of format breaking episode for us. We are going to be looking at several of the VHS movies. Specifically, the segments that there's been a few over the years that are a little bit more Frankenstein-y than others. Mm-hmm. So yeah, we have the new one that just came out, VHS Beyond, which I think is like the 7th in the series at this point.
Yes, there are 2 trilogies and then the 7th.
Gotcha.
Yep.
Yeah, that makes sense. They had 1, 2, and Viral forever ago, and then the 3 like decade ones, and then now Beyond.
Okay, so let me ask you this: what series so far has been your favorite?
I think I liked the decade ones the best so far. Like, yeah. VHS 1 was really great. I thought 2 and 3, or 2 and Viral, kind of both were like a decline in quality. And then the decades ones were all kind of interesting, setting them in different time periods. I thought that was kind of fun and everything.
Yeah, I think I have to agree with you. The decade ones are the most consistently good.
Mm-hmm. Although this new one was really good, and I know they just announced that I think the next one's just going to be called VHS 8, or else maybe they'll come up with a title later, but I did see that it's going to happen. So
all right. So I don't want to spoil Beyond in my opinion of it, but I honestly felt like this was kind of a return to Viral for me. But there were a lot more. There was a lot of things that I didn't really care too much for, and hint, we're going to be talking about one of those. Okay. For sure. That was probably the most I was actually annoyed during that sequence, but we'll get to it when we get to it.
Yeah, all right. So you want to go ahead and get started?
Yeah, let's go ahead and get this party started. So we're going to start off with VHS 2. That's where we're going to come in. Phase 1 clinical trials.
Yeah. So VHS 1 didn't really have anything for us, but yeah. This one, I enjoy this one quite a bit. Mm-hmm. So we've got, this segment is directed by Adam Wingard.
And starring Adam Wingard.
Yes. So he, in recent years, is mostly known as like the guy who's got the keys to the kingdom of the like Monsterverse. Mm-hmm. He's done like the last 2, maybe 3. I think he did he do Skull Island? I know he did Godzilla versus Kong and Godzilla X Kong, the New Empire, or whatever. But yeah, this is a rare in front of the camera thing for him, which with the way that this is set up, we don't get a lot of him in front of the camera. It's mostly a POV kind of thing. Yeah. So we get a lot of his voice and occasionally him looking in a mirror.
It is his basically framing device.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And it looks like he did do Godzilla versus just the Godzilla X Kong or versus Kongs.
Okay.
Yep. Not Skull Island.
Gotcha. Yeah, so we have him interacting with a doctor. We find out that he has received an experimental, like, false eye that's like a cybernetic implant.
Yeah, but his regular biological eye just isn't working yet. So hopefully the idea is they'll sync up. So technically we're only seeing things out of the... I guess it is also a biological eye. It's just the implanted eye.
Yeah, but so this is our what is recording is this eye. This is and the doctor even talks about that, like, because this is a clinical trial,
we're going to be monitoring what you're seeing just to make sure the eye is working.
Right. And he's like, hey, what about turning it off during private time? Can I switch it off? And the guy's like, nah, man.
Yeah.
We're going to see everything.
Yeah, he was like, consider it a fair compromise for, really, really high-end technology that you're getting for free and that way before anybody else does.
Right, exactly. So, of course, we then get a shot of him walking down the hall of the hospital, and he passes by this girl who's just staring at him very strangely. Mm-hmm. Creepily,
yeah,
you'd say.
Yeah, right away you're like, oh, this girl, like, she recognizes him or knows something's up. Like, there's something weird here. We're going to see more of her later.
Uh-huh.
And so then, we see him back at home. He, he's just kind of chilling. Like, he's just a guy. He's playing video games. He makes a pot of tea.
So did you know that this was Adam Wingard's actual home at the time?
No, I did not.
Yeah.
Really...
So all the mess was his. He was like, pretty much, I added a few things to it to make it slightly more messy, but this was basically how I was living at the time.
That's great.
Yeah.
So, but when he comes back from fixing tea, his video game controller is missing.
That's weird. And then the teapot starts screaming at him. Like, it almost sounds like a little girl screaming.
Mm-hmm. So he rushes into the next room, and I think is the teapot's on the ground or something.
It got knocked off.
Yeah, and so then he goes into his bedroom, the next room, and there's like a silhouette of a person under the sheets in his bed.
Yeah, it is a vaguely feminine shape in the bed.
Mm-hmm. And so he grabs the end of the sheets, pulls them off the bed, and there's nobody there.
That's creepy, right?
Yeah, incredibly creepy.
Yeah.
So when he turns around to run away and bumps into a creepy ghostly figure in the room.
Yeah. So what does he do? Honestly, this is the worst decision ever, man. If there's a ghost in the house, I'm getting out of the house. I'm not running into the bathroom.
Yeah, so he locks himself in the bathroom. He gets on his phone, and so this is a bit where we get to see him. He's staring at the bathroom mirror as he's talking on the phone.
Right. He's calling the doctor, asking about it. He's like, "Hey, man, can we get this thing out, or what's going on with this?"
Yeah, I don't like this. It's glitchy. Something's wrong. And then we see him kind of continuing to investigate around the house.
Right, stares down the hall with the obvious something in the dark shadows, and he's like, "Somebody there!" Then boom, lights flash. It's a little creepy little girl. Go figure.
Yeah. So we get lots of little jump scares here. Eventually, he runs back to the bathroom, locks himself in,
goes to beat on the door trying to get in the bathroom.
Mm-hmm. And. So finally, he ends up passing out in the bathtub, and I think we just it's the next morning. He kind of nervously creeps out of the bathroom, is looking around, and I think then he lays down the couch and just falls asleep, which seems crazy. Get out of that house.
Yeah, what are you doing, man? Get out of here.
Yeah.
But
then
later that evening, obviously, he wakes up and he's like, "Oh shit.
Yeah.
I fucked up."
Yeah, so he goes to leave the house. Good move, finally.
Yeah.
But that weird girl from the hospital is standing there, just waiting for him when he steps outside.
By the way, wow, that door is super reinforced, man. You're not getting through that unless you have a tank.
Yeah, which again is interesting that's his real apartment.
Yeah.
But the girl's like, "We need to talk. I need to tell you about stuff. Have you been seeing
dead
weird
people?
Stuff?" Yeah. And he's like, "Yeah, I've been seeing some crazy stuff." And she's like, "All right, I'd like a beer. Let's
give me beer or painkillers, either one that makes my mental state not sound. Let's go."
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And she's like, "Oh, is there a little girl here?" And he's like, "Yeah, that's one of the main weird ghost things I've been seeing." And she's like, "Yeah, I hear her."
Yeah.
So whereas you got an eye implant, I received a cochlear implant as a child.
Right. I was born deaf, is what she says.
Mm-hmm. And ever since then, I can hear dead people.
Oh, no. And so how did you get your eye, she asks. And he got it in a vague car accident.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And she's like, "So I know you're seeing these people, but try to the more you interact with them, the more you sense them, the more that they know that that you can sense them, and they're going to start interacting back.
Right.
And he's like, nah, it's cool. I'm going to go to the doctor and just have him pull it out. Like, I am done with this.
She's like, nah, you've gone too far. Gone too far. You can't take this back.
Yeah. If you take it out, you'll still know they're there, and they'll still know you're there. You just won't be able to see them and able to, like, get away.
Right, so they'll be able to interact with you at any point.
Yeah, and then they notice a very creepy guy standing in the backyard.
I love her response. It is the best response. Oh, yeah, that's my uncle. He wasn't a good guy. So, okay, great, awesome.
Yeah, and he's just like, isn't he just like in like his underwear?
Yep, tidy whities with some blood going down his chest.
Yeah, so she's like... she turns on really loud music to, like, cover up the ghosts she's hearing.
Yeah, there's one surefire way to make sure the ghosts don't interact with you or pay attention to you.
Yep, just focus on me. And she takes off her top. And, of course, we're still getting his POV, so they're really playing with, like, the nudity here. And she gets on top of him, and they have sex, and, again, it's, like, him looking up at her.
Their decisions are wild. I would try to go to, like, a brand new hotel where there couldn't possibly be any ghosts to do this business.
But yeah, instead, after they have sex, they fall asleep in this haunted house. He wakes up later on the floor where they were having sex, and she is asleep on the couch next to him. And he gets up and goes to the bathroom, and he gets, like, again, he's like talking at his eye basically, and he's like, "All right, scientists, I want a copy of
right on disc. I don't care. Don't you watch this, but I want to watch this again."
Yeah, I'm gonna save that for later.
All right, I'm not gonna lie. I understand. I'm not saying I condone, but I understand.
Yeah. So when he leaves the bathroom, he again sees a body under a sheet on his bed.
Right, he's like, "Oh shit, not again."
Yeah. But this time when he pulls the sheet off, the ghost is there. He sees them.
She does a Michael Myers and sits right up.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And he hears noise outside the room and goes rushing in and sees that the deaf girl is now being drowned in the hot tub.
I guess at some point she did say her name. I think it's Carissa. But he starts yelling for her.
He ends up having to, like, jump in and try to pull her out.
Yeah, but because this is a movie type drowning. So that happens real quick.
Yeah. She is drowned at the bottom of the pool, so he just, like, leaves her there, runs back inside, and now the house is just, like, full of ghosts. It's like a full-on, like, haunted house.
Well, yeah, but as he's going in, though, also the pool, like, explodes like something's jumping out of it, right? Mm-hmm. So, yeah, but like you said, full haunted house.
Yeah, it's his POV. He's running from room to room. There's all these jump scares. It's he eventually manages to get back to the bathroom. Locks himself in, and he pulls out a straight razor and starts cutting out the eye.
Lovely. That's amazing. No, it is a really cool effect, because then we cut to the eye, which apparently still has, like, power, I guess, but he goes outside of the bathroom because he's an idiot. Then the ghost just grab him and start beating the shit out of him, grabs the eye and literally shoves it down his throat, ending this segment. Yeah, so as she had warned, once he removed the eye, they were all still there. He just couldn't see him, so he just made himself an even easier target. Obviously the Frankenstein element here is science going beyond the bounds of human stuff. Well, is it that, or is it like... was this the eye of a former, like, I don't know, like, seer or some type of oracle that dealt with ghosts or something like that?
Yeah, that could be as well. Yeah, like, either way, I mean, like, either it's a cyborg kind of situation or, like a haunted eye in some way.
Right.
But either way, not going well for him. And, I feel like this is, I don't know that we're going to see actual Frankenstein level, developments ever. Certainly not in our lifetime. But this, I mean, we're like on the cusp of stuff like this.
Yeah, truly we are. I mean, implanting and reattaching pieces. We are getting there slowly and surely.
Mm-hmm. I mean, like the girls' the cochlear implants.
That's
that
a thing.
Is a thing already. Yeah. So yeah, it's definitely I can imagine this happening in our lifetimes.
Maybe not the ghost thing, but yeah.
Yeah, hopefully not the ghost thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, this is a fun segment. Like we said, I think 1 is super strong. VHS 2, it has its moments, and I think this one's pretty solid. I did not rewatch the whole VHS 2 before we did this, but I do remember enjoying the rest of it pretty well.
Oh yeah.
So there was nothing in viral, and then I think was
99 was next.
99 was next, and then
94,
which is the next one. We've got something in. So we've got
Subject 99.
The subject, yeah.
Or the subject.
So here we have a man waking up with like a scientist standing over him, but this time he wakes up and he is
catching on fire.
He's just a head attached to a robot spider body.
That is awful. That's the worst.
Yeah, so he immediately dies, and then we just go to a little later. The scientist is doing another experiment.
Right. We have a guy strapped down. The Dr. James Suhendra is his name. He says, "All right, this is subject 98. So, we're going to work on him, but the girl is subject 99."
Mhm. Yeah. So he's like, I've had a lot of failures, but this one is going to work. I've got 2 subjects. I'm going to try 2 different methods at the same time. And surely at least one of these processes will work.
Exactly. But while he's like, all right, I'm going to start the process right now. The doctor revs up his bone saw to show it for us, and then he goes and starts cutting into the girl. But subject 98 starts waking up in mid-process.
Yeah, so he's like sawing into her skull, and he's obviously seeing all of this and is very upset. And so the scientist rushes over and like injects him again, and then the next thing we see is more POV stuff like we had in the last segment, and this time we've got subject 99 waking up, and the scientist is referring to her as his child, and he's like, finally, this works. And instead of it's alive, we get
finally.
Yeah, we get happy birthday, my child.
Well, happy born day is what the subtitles say.
Oh, right.
But yes, happy birthday is probably, the correct interpretation. So
this is, I guess we didn't say this one is, it's from the Philippines, right? I believe
No. It's Malaysia, because it's in Jakarta.
Okay.
Or Indonesia.
Gotcha, okay. So, yeah, we've got... We see that like the creation's POV, and the doctor, again, sort of similar to last time, he has a monitor where he can see her POV as well. And so we get this kind of like, dual shot where like you can see her looking at the TV and then the TV inside the TV, and on through.
Right. We get the infinity box of her eyes, effectively.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So we have the doctor talking into a tape recorder in classic, scientist, recording his notes kind of fashion. And it's mostly like really just like hubristic mad science kind of like, he's like bragging about how, his experiments working out and all this, and that he's a genius and that he's going to change the world and all of this. And I think he says some stuff about like, this is the culmination of Da Vinci's Vitruvian Man. I'm going to push the boundaries of what a human can be.
Right. These will be my masterpieces. And he also talks about, we're not sure where Da Vinci was going to go, but I feel like Da Vinci wasn't going to start sawing into people.
Right. Yeah. And we get this great bit, like we're seeing mostly the female monster's POV, but he's working on the male monster. And as he's messing with him, like I guess he hits a nerve or something, and all of a sudden his arm just shoots up straight. He's laying flat.
Yeah,
and his arm
it's a Buster Sword.
Yeah, it is a huge ass blade, and like, if the doctor had been standing in the wrong place, he would have just decapitated himself while fucking with this thing.
That would have been great, right? That would have been the end of the story.
Yeah. And he's like, oh, oops, I need to do a little bit more fine tuning on this one.
Right, but then we get a shot of, I guess it is 99, but also there's news on now, and it's talking about, hey, there's a bunch of people going missing. We're pretty sure it's this Dr. James Suhendra. Right. Way to call him out, I guess.
I guess several of his patients are among the people who have gone missing, so they're on the lookout for him.
Right. One specifically named with the initials SA.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and when the news report says that, we get like a weird mechanical whine coming from the female creation, like as her voice box is gone. This is the sound she's able to make.
Right. He's like, oh shit, you remember who you were?
Yeah. We see a little later he's working on her instead of the male creature.
Yeah, he deactivates her so he can basically drill out the memories.
Mm-hmm. But she manages to kind of like break free a little bit, like she knocks him down. And then she has like one of those like metal trays that like doctors keep their like, surgical implements on. Mm-hmm. And she just starts like beating him with it. Right.
Well, he's not going to take that because as soon as he does get up, he takes the tray and starts beating her.
Yeah.
Now he calls her a failure, though.
Yeah. But then there's pounding on the door, and the doctor's like, wait, who could that be? And, of course we know that... Yeah, instantly the door breaks down. I'm not sure if this is just regular police or military, but they're
definitely militarized police for sure.
Yeah, which we're very used to here in America.
Right. I feel like you have to do something special to get that in Indonesia, but I could be wrong.
Yeah. But they're like, okay, we found the suspect, and Suhendra's like, why would you try to arrest me? My work is so important.
Oh, Doc, we're not trying to arrest you.
Yeah. So they just mow him down with machine guns. Like, they all open fire on him all at once.
Oh, we also get this new character, Jono, who's the new cameraman, basically.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so we kind of bounce back and forth for the rest of this segment. We have his body cam and the female creation as well. They're like, we're just, they've killed the doctor. Now they're just searching the compound for survivors. And they eventually do find S.A., and they're like, she's alive. Like, what do we do? Like, this is, she's been, horrifically mutilated at this point. And the commander's like, I'm not taking her back to her parents like this. We need to just put her down.
Right.
Like, this is a mercy killing, basically.
But of course, Jono is like, maybe we don't do that, man. That's kind of, dirty. Her parents are going to be looking for her.
Yeah, and while they're arguing about it, she manages to escape. And so now we have, again, kind of a haunted house thing where we've got soldiers trying to pursue. There's they get to a locked door that then explodes, injuring several of them.
Oh no, we get the doctor basically gloating how he installed a dead man switch. Mm-hmm. He's like, yeah, so looks like you killed me, so now you're going to be trapped in here. Nobody's ever going to learn about what happened to these people.
Yeah, so this is a recording, of course, and so we've got the male monster then wakes up, and he instantly just goes ape shit. He's just he's got two giant swords for arms, and he's just wrecking house, just killing dudes left and right, chopping them up.
Yeah, he looks like the stabby robot from Futurama, which is kind of amazing.
Yeah, he does. And we do see that the main difference other than his arms is part of his head is gone. He's got I think that's what you're referring to, especially his head's got these big rounded parts.
Right, the eyes, the quote unquote eyes that are just lights.
Yeah.
But the bottom part of his face or his head is a human face.
Mm-hmm. Which is just really disturbing looking.
Yeah.
And then we just see a little later from the female monster's point of view. She wakes up and kind of stumbles around in the darkness and,
sees exploded soldiers everywhere.
Yeah, we see the aftermath of the male monster's, berserker rage. And she's obviously scared and is kind of running down the hall trying to get away.
She comes out into a hallway and she basically gets sandwiched between Subject 98 and soldiers that are firing at 98.
And, this is kind of a Bride of Frankenstein deal where, it's not like she's like, oh, another thing like me, you're safe. She's,
right.
Scared at both ends. She doesn't want to go either way.
Yeah, neither one are particularly friendly, right?
Yeah. So she ends up, ducking down an alcove. She finds Suhendra's desk, which is full of, design notes.
Weapon plans for a Buster Cannon from Mega Man.
Yeah. And she also finds a photo of herself before all this was done to her as a human.
Yeah, but there's also this weird cover over what's presumably like a glass case.
Mm-hmm. Yep, she uncovers it, and it's the top half of her head.
Oh, boy.
Floating in formaldehyde.
That's got to be something to see the top of your own head.
Yeah, very disturbing.
Mm-hmm.
In the distance, she sees like a sink with a mirror above it, and so we know this is going to be our mirror moment. Right. She kind of like approaches slowly and sees herself for the first time, and we're seeing her for the first time, really. And her head is the same thing where it's like, above the jaw, basically, but it's like a camera, just full-on camera instead of like the big 2-eye light thing. And obviously this upsets her. She screams, she punches the mirror, the normal thing we get out of these scenes a lot.
Yeah, but she also hears somebody saying, "Hello, is somebody there?" Always a good sign in a creepy lab.
Yeah, and so she follows the sound and gets to another, like a female head connected to a spider body, and then like she just keeps running and ends up passing several mangled bodies in a variety of states. Some have robot parts, some are fully dead, some are kind of like half alive, groaning and stuff. It's all really terrible stuff here. This really reminded me of Frankenstein's army.
Yes, very much so. Or the lab scene from Resident Evil Village, if you've played that. They both are very similar in that mutilated people with robotic parts.
Yeah.
But the girl is the one that was yelling hello. We find out she was also a spider head or a head on a spider body.
Yeah, and she's like, "Hello, is this real? What's happening?"
Yeah.
And our our subject 99 here, she knows that this is not a good situation for her, and that she's basically dead. So she unplugs her, allowing her to.
Oh yeah, that was another girl that's on the slab. Yeah, the one that she unplugs.
Oh right, okay, yeah. So we've got just. She's trying to do some, I guess similarly to the soldier, she's viewing this as mercy killings.
Right. Which, that's kind of hardcore, though, right? It's like, you asked to be spared, and now you're like, all right, I'm just going to go ahead and unplug you now. Bye.
Mm-hmm. And at that point, a few surviving soldiers burst in, and, they are going to attack. And she looks down and sees that she's missing an arm, as if as we saw the notes earlier. The doctor had plans for her, and then she sees the gun that's supposed to be connected to her arm, and so she snaps it in place and just starts
first person mode. She goes full first person mode. It's amazing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, this is, I guess the Resident Evil here is a good pull, because this is straight up like just a video game at this point.
Right. She literally shoots a guy so much at his face that she ruins his face, grabs his body, and literally uses him as a shield.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So she eventually runs out of bullets, and then kind of looks down at the hand, or the cannon, and does something, and all of a sudden a grenade launches out of it instead.
Right, she runs out of bullets, yeah. So she has grenades.
Yeah. And then finally she gets to our one, good soldier who was trying to defend her earlier.
Yeah, Jono.
Yeah, and he's like, "Wait, you're the missing girl. What do you want? I can help you." And she's like, "To live." And he's like, "Okay, great, me too. Let's get the fuck out of here.
Let's work together to live," right?
Before they can escape, the commander bursts back in, and he tries to attack her, and he's like, "What are you doing helping her?" He kicks the crap out of Jono.
He just beats the snot out of him.
Yeah, he's like, "She killed our friends. Why are you trying to help her?" Then we see, I guess it's been here this whole time, but now we're starting to note, she has a little battery indicator, like an old camera would,
Mm-hmm.
But it's getting really low and flashing. It's clear she's about to go offline as the commander is, attacking her. He's ripping parts off of her. We're seeing things flying.
Yeah, blood spurting.
Mm-hmm. But then you hear a gunshot. The commander collapses. Jono has killed his corrupt commander and is trying to help SA instead. But before they can escape, the male monster reappears. He attacks, and we end up in a full-on monster fight.
Monster fight! Yeah, exactly.
And yeah, so this part's great. We just had, we're just getting a full shot of this from Jono's body cam, right? So we're getting to see the whole thing.
Well, we also get to see hers, but whenever she gets on top of the 98, she just starts beating him with her prosthetic metal piece connecting hand.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Eventually, she just straight up kills the male monster.
Rips his brains out.
Yep. And so she goes to check on Jono. His arms have been pulled off in the fight. Then we see the last shot of the movie is we just see from like the lab security cam footage that the female monster survived and she is limping out of the facility.
Hey, she gets a good ending, I guess.
Yeah, good.
Ish.
As good as you can hope for in this case, yeah.
I mean, listen, this is VHS. You don't normally get those, right?
Right, yeah. So this one, a little bit positive. We've got a monster. I mean, of course, she looks very monstrous. It's going to be hard for her to survive out in the world, but...
Yeah, she's not going to have a normal life for sure.
Yeah, but she gets to fight another day at least, and hopefully maybe she can find her family, and who knows. But yeah, she's at least defeated all of the male monster that seemed like the more dangerous thing. So
yep.
Possibly good things ahead for Subject 99.
Well, we can't necessarily say the same thing for our next protagonist, Ada Lovelace.
Yeah, so from there, we skip VHS 99. There wasn't any Frankenstein-y things there. Jump straight to 85, where we have what I'm embarrassed to say I did not realize was supposed to be TKNOGD until you said that earlier.
That's funny. Well, so what is your opinion, real quick, of 85?
85, like I like the year ones just because, like, I feel like the vibe there is good in terms of like having this sort of like cohesiveness to it. Although I don't think. I'm trying to remember what else is in the 85 one. I feel like it wasn't quite as cohesive as the other ones.
Oh, man. I disagree. No way.
Yeah, the 85 is the one that has the sequel within it, right?
Yeah.
Yes, that one actually, yeah, that's really great. I love that. And I did think the wraparound one in this one was confusing to me.
Yeah.
I had a little trouble with it, but like, yeah, the individual segments in this one, yeah, actually, I think were really great.
Yeah, I think in this one the individual segments were the best, some of the best, but the wraparound, like you were saying, is one of the weakest for sure.
Yeah, it's this whole like weird shape-shifting entity thing, and you have like all these like scientists like trying to figure out what its deal is. And,
right, but they're giving it brain rot by making it watch television. No wonder it wants to kill them by the end.
Yeah, that way, like it just that felt like I think with VHS the wraparounds either have to slowly build to something, or with the most recent one, Beyond, I feel like the wraparound bits are actually just kind of ephemera, and they kind of work like commercials, which I think also works. But this one feels like it was trying to build something and it failed, and that just kind of was like a letdown.
Yeah. But this, I like TKNOGD. I think it's really great. We're once again, like I mentioned just a second ago, this is Ada Lovelace presents TKNOGD. By the way, do you know Ada Lovelace? The reference there. She
was like one of the first like computer programmers, right? Like an early programmer who like helped develop video games, I believe.
Well, so, I mean, not video game. I mean, technically, yeah, sure. But I believe she might have also been Lord Byron's daughter.
Oh, interesting.
Yes. But yes, she was a mathematician. She did invent, like, basically one of the first computers.
Okay. Yeah, I feel like I've seen, she gets referenced a lot in relation to video games, I think just because being an early coder and being a woman, especially in this, arena that is still very male driven, you got to hold on to those female icons as much as you can. So
right.
I think she comes up a lot in that regard. But here it's like we've got a sort of performance artist who presumably is using this as her like stage name or whatever.
Right, but she's up on stage with her silk robe, because nudity's going to be involved once you see the silk robe, right? In a black box.
Yeah. So she's doing like a one-woman show, and
there are dozens of people. Well, maybe a dozen people.
Yeah. And we've got somebody like back in the audience who is setting up a camcorder on on like a little tripod, and she also has one on the stage she's setting up. She kind of goes into this rant. This is her one-woman show thing that she's going on about how like people don't really believe in God anymore. We've kind of killed God in the modern age and replaced him
with a techno god.
Yeah. She's got like a a projector behind her, and she shows this video.
Oh, I love this scene, man, because it's painfully 80s, like programmer.
Yeah, the whole thing here, I mean, obviously, VHS 85 came out a couple years ago, right? But it's set in 85, so we're able to do a sort of like winky stuff about like where technology is headed, because obviously, nearly 40 years or whatever had passed between when when this is set and when it's being made. We have a guy who is explaining the techno glove, this new thing he's invented where man can interact in the digital dimension while still being present in our dimension. What I like this idea, obviously now we have much more advanced VR, I think especially like the PlayStation VR that's currently out is pretty robust, but I like the way he puts on a headset that he calls the iPhone.
This is actually a reference to a real product, like EYE phone.
Oh, okay.
It was a virtual reality headset released in '87. Of course, it's not going to be great by VPL Research.
Okay.
Is the company.
I found it interesting. Like even now, you don't hear people talk about like he keeps referring to like the digital dimension as like another plane of existence, and that by wearing a VR setup,
you can interact with it.
Yeah, you can interact. You can be in two dimensions at once. Basically, you are transporting your sensory organs to the digital plane while your physical body.
And so many perverts, their brain just started tingling once they heard sensory organs.
Yeah. And so we watched this whole video of this guy, and then Ada stops it and is like, you did this. You
killed God.
Yeah, you killed our, all of the gods that we've worshipped for millennia and replaced it with this new god. And at that point, as you said, she removes her robe, and then she puts on like this futuristic like black jumpsuit.
Right. This is basically a cat suit with wires, right?
Yeah, and she puts on an iPhone's helmet and the techno gloves, and now the screen behind her is showing what she can see. So we're sort of getting a POV. Again, a lot of these rely on POV for like the the tension or whatever.
Right. With these microphones and speakers, we will summon the techno god.
Yeah, and of course, this is 85 VR, so we're looking at like a Tron type, low poly, framework kind of system.
The thing I love about this, though, is also the whole VR realm is another like late 80s, early 90s thing. We could travel through the series of tubes and all that good stuff.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right, to interact with this virtual world, which, that's cute, That's just adorable.
Right.
But now she's ready to summon the techno god, but she's also she's talking shit about the techno god that she's about to summon. She calls it a child born of hate.
Yeah.
Like, at this point, I don't think it's a child born of hate. I think it's a child born of probably some dirty old bastards.
Yeah. Yeah,
So
I mean,
this
it's
is-
born of, again, this is our sort of, Frankenstein element here. It's a child born of curiosity, possibly hubris or something, like,
Yeah.
but not hate.
Yeah.
And
Then she starts making dolphin noises because, once again, this is a black box product,
yeah, she's making all these crazy noises, eventually starts speaking in Latin, and, again, kind of mocks the techno god, like, wake up, come when you're called. Why are you afraid of us?
Yeah, I feel like saying a god doesn't exist, but you're trying to summon it is just trying to piss it off.
Yeah.
But then she starts saying Deus Voltus? What the fuck?
Yeah. And she's like, okay, so clearly the techno god is a myth, and which she's the one who said that a techno god existed. So now, like, it's weird that she's like, you all made this myth that I'm proving it's false, and it's like, no, you just made the myth up yourself.
Right. You've literally done all this to yourself. It's like you put the stick into your bike wheel, and then once you fell over, you were like, you did this.
Yeah. And we do get a couple shots of the audience here where they all look like bored out of their minds, and kind of confused. But then suddenly, on the screen, it starts like flickering, and then all of a sudden, this weird digital creature flashes into existence on the screen.
Yeah, it's very spiky, this thing. Also, it doesn't take long to fuck with her, because immediately it just starts throwing her into the air and, like, pulling her around.
Yeah, and the cool thing is, the real life Ada is being lifted up off the ground. We don't, the techno god is not present in the physical realm, but it's still able to affect her through the iPhones and everything.
Right, through her sensory organs.
Yeah, to the point that it actually rips off one of her hands, and then a big chunk out of one of her legs, and like
it strips her leg down to the bone.
Mm-hmm. And yeah, we see that in the physical realm. Like, she eventually like collapses on the ground and looks, like she is dying. I mean, she's losing a lot of blood here.
Yeah, that pretty much happens when he rips off the other. It's like, well, that's it. But she was trying to kind of get the headset off, but it just wouldn't come off for a moment.
Yeah.
And we're about to see why.
So yeah, then we have the guy controlling the camera in the audience, who I guess is her assistant or friend or something. He rushes on stage, tries to help her, and he gets the iPhone's helmet off, and we see that everything that was touched by the helmet basically has, like, the flesh has been peeled away.
Ripped
like
off.
We see like her exposed brain and just like eyeballs sticking out on like stalks, basically.
Right, just twitching, of course. And then everyone, like, starts clapping, like,
Yeah.
oh, this was really cool. That was so realistic.
Yeah, this is a great show. It was a great twist here at the end.
Yeah.
And that's how that one ends. So
Yeah.
she has become a sacrifice to her own, like, tulpa-like tech god that she's invented.
Right. Very Tulpa-like. I like it. But yeah, pretty much. She started talking shit about it, literally spoke it into existence, and then it fucked her up. Don't do that, kids.
Yeah.
Be consistent with your messaging, or you'll
Yeah.
piss off the Tulpas you summon.
Right.
But so, all right, from there, we're going to move on from the decades to, this is, in my opinion, I didn't like Beyond, if I'm going to be honest with you. It very much reminded me of Viral.
Yeah, it didn't feel like it had it lacked something cohesive.
Even the wraparound, like, whereas, so a lot of the stories, they're fine.
Stork is cool, and Stork has a really great like creature design, of course. The other one that kind of stood out to me was Stowaway, which of course, Mike Flanagan wrote that, and this is the directorial debut of his wife Kate Siegel, who has acted in most of his stuff. It was like one of the shorter segments though. Like, I feel like it wasn't quite as fleshed out, but it felt like still it had a little bit more kind of meat on its bones than some of the others.
I would say it's probably also one of the ones with the biggest heart. Like, there was a lot of human emotion involved in it. You could tell.
Yeah.
But I will say the segment we're about to talk about next is pretty good. Dream Girl.
We are in like Bollywood setting. So we're in Mumbai. We have like two paparazzi guys.
What is it? Arnab and Sonu. But they're waiting outside for Miss Pari. Apparently, she's like one of the it girls, I guess, at the time. But basically, she hops in this guy named Shah Rukh's car and basically jets off, almost pulls Arnab off with her, and he lands on the street, but he gets a piece of glass stuck in his arm, and it's gnarly. It's a gnarly effect.
Yeah.
But I love what he says afterwards. I ain't got no time to bleed. Come on. Don't quote Predator at me. I was there when that was written.
Yeah, and his I don't know if they're like, they're just partners, right? I don't think one's an assistant to the other or anything, but
Sonu is definitely the idiot.
Yeah, he's
right?
like, he didn't recognize the quote at all. But they get a call from their boss that they've got a new job. That this seems like, rather than a guerrilla paparazzi kind of deal, they've actually gotten permission to go on set, and they've gotten trailer access and everything. They're going to get to spend time with the new up and coming dream girl Tara. So they've got to rush across town and get to her. And we get like a brief segment of them on like a little Vespa scooter kind of thing. We also find out that like Arnab seems like he's kind of like got a chip on his shoulder about celebrity.
Well, because he's basically a failed actor, right? We're going to find that out here in a moment.
Yeah. So they talk about that there are rumors that Tara must be into witchcraft because she just like really rose to stardom really quickly. And I think Sonu's like, yeah, but she has to deal with the pressures of fame and all that. You got to appreciate that. And
now, so this is actually, do you think this may be a statement on AI affecting like actors and things like that? Because, of the end, basically.
Yeah.
Because Arnab does talk about, hey, she doesn't have to worry about anything.
Yeah. I mean, there's definitely, obviously, again, his jealousy. Like, if I was in her shoes, I would be happy. The pressures of fame wouldn't bother me at all. Which, I mean, I feel like this is, everybody who's not famous, or like a lot of people who aren't famous, want to be, and they're like, well, I would be great. I wouldn't fall down the traps of like,
right.
Dealing with all the stress and,
But you still hear all the horror stories about the people that are like, oh, I'm famous, but it sucks sometimes.
Yeah. So there's that kind of like, and of course being a paparazzi person, like they're part of the pressures of stardom. They're part of the problem. But Arnab doesn't seem to, get that.
Right. And we do get a note that before this year, Arnab never even heard of Tara before.
Mm-hmm. And so they're supposed to go like wait for Tara in her trailer, but Sonu's like, but we're on a set. Like, let's go I want to see them filming. Like, let's go, let's get to enjoy this rare opportunity.
Yeah, and the guy who's providing him access to the lot, Yippee, is like, fine, idiot, let's fucking go do this thing.
Yeah, so they get to go watch a take, which is, it's a Bollywood number. We get Tara and several backup dancers. She sings a song that's like, the lyrical content is like, I am a fiery goddess, I'm untamed, I'm uncontrollable.
Right. Don't mistake me for a flicker or you'll burn in the fires of madness.
Yeah.
Literally, it's kind of telling you the story of the rest of the movie, I'm just saying, or the rest of the series.
Yeah, and we end up, the very end of it is, it's kind of subtle, because like Tara seems like she's kind of like confused. She keeps just doing the same move over and over again, and the backup dancers start kind of giving her side eye and stopping. The director calls
like,
cut. Her manager's on set, and he's like, she needs a break. You all are working her too hard. She's just tired. And so everything kind of shuts down.
Yeah, and this is when Sonu and Arnab, they take off to go to the trailer.
Yeah, but the strange thing is, like, we've been told they have trailer access. They're supposed to meet her in the trailer for an interview or, for some photos or whatever. But when they go in the trailer, like, when they hear her coming in, they hide in the closet instead of just being there where they're supposed to be allowed to be, right?
See, I don't know that necessarily they're allowed to be there because Arnab does talk about getting candids. So either he is going to give her an interview and he wants quote unquote real shots of her, like her being depressed in her trailer. Yeah, I guess.
Yeah, that could be that. Like they've been given. It's strange, but regardless, they end up eavesdropping, watching her through like the slats in the closet door. We have a conversation between her and her manager, where he's basically like, get your shit together, like you can be replaced, like you're not girls like you are a dime a dozen. And so he leaves, and she's just like kind of crying by herself as they keep filming her and watching her.
But he sticks his hand in some weird gel, and we get to see that.
Yeah, like he, again, we're in POV, we're seeing his camera, and so he turns around to see what the goop was that he touched, and he sees a face floating in a jar.
She's a witch, confirmed, right?
Yeah, so he gets freaked out. He like stumbles out of the closet, and he tries to just rush out of the trailer, but it turns out there's no handle on the inside of the trailer door.
Weird.
Yeah, and so he immediately has to pivot, and he's like, are you okay? Your manager seems so cruel, and like it looks like you're locked in here. Like, what's
doesn't
what's going on?
Doesn't she also ask him, "Hey, do you want a selfie?" Like,
mm-hmm. Yeah, it's definitely like the celebrity. Like she's like trying to be the friendly celebrity here or whatever. Mm-hmm. And she's like, well, I have to listen to my manager. Like whatever he says goes. He made me. And, Arnab's like, no, managers always say that, but you have a real talent.
Right, you're a goddess. Also.
Yeah, he's leeching off of you. He didn't make you. He's just getting his percentage. You'd be fine without him.
Right, whenever he does call her a goddess, she's like, could you say that again? And she starts smiling.
Yeah, and he explicitly says, "You are a goddess, and you can do whatever you want." And she's like, "Thank you."
Right, ominously.
Yeah,
and he's like, "Well, I gotta go." And she's like, "Hold up." And she starts literally tearing her own face off.
Yep, and we see, or like we kind of, it's shaky and it's kind of from a distance, so we never quite get a really good look at her face, but like
till she turns around and says, "I will wear your face and rule as a commoner."
Yeah, so she's got, it's a robot face sort of. It's like one glitchy glowing eye.
It is almost like a stereotypical witch/hag's face with mechanical elements. So kind of a witch, but kind of a robot at the same time.
Yeah. So she bursts out of the trailer and kind of goes on a rampage. The first thing she does is she sees her manager and she just grabs him and vomits some sort of acidic something all over his face for like a long time.
She gives him the Rathma special.
Yeah. And everybody else in the, other cast and crew and just whoever's around, everyone's running and screaming.
Yeah, but they run back into the studio, and she follows quickly behind them.
Yeah. So she ends up, she pulls, a power cable out of something and jams it into her side, and it seems to, give her more power.
Right, she has a powerful, she screams, and it seems to stun everybody in her vicinity.
Yeah. And, yeah, she starts, I am the goddess, bow to me. And then we just get, an extended, sort of massacre where she's ripping people open,
electrocuting them.
Yeah, blasting electrical blasts at people. And by the time it's all said and done, we're left with Arnab and Sonu are the only survivors. And we're back to their POV as they're kind of wandering through the wreckage, just bloody carnage everywhere. And eventually Tara finds them.
Well, she finds Sonu first, and she literally punches his eyeballs out. Well, okay, gouges them out with her thumb.
Yeah. So then we've got Arnab is the last survivor. He's running around in the darkness, trying to get away from her, but he ends up in another room with her still.
Well, he basically circles around the backstage just to come out the door.
Yeah.
Right face to face with her, right?
Yeah, and she's just standing right there and she says, "Dance with me."
Yeah, nope, no thank you.
Yeah. So she grabs both of his hands and just rips both of his arms off.
Rip Arnab. Right?
Yeah.
But she doesn't stop there. She keeps ripping into his face, right?
Yep, she peels his face off as she threatened to earlier, puts it over her robot face, but obviously, it doesn't look real.
No, it's a face on a face, right?
Yeah.
She gives him the leather face special in this case.
Yeah, pretty much. And so she strolls out of the studio as a bunch of paparazzi around, and she says, "Do you want a selfie again?"
Yeah. Yep, and then she chases them off, presumably killing all of them as well.
Yeah. Yes.
And in that world, I like to think that Tara eventually took over the world.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know who's going to stop her.
Right.
So yeah, I mean, this definitely again feels like a lot of these are like TKNOGD before. It's if we're too hubristic in our pursuit of new technologies, we're going to end up creating
our own destruction.
Yeah, creating something that's too powerful for us to stop. I feel like a lot of the VHS segments that we're talking about kind of carry that idea forward, but less so with the next segment we want to talk about here.
God. Okay, am I being too mean by saying this is probably the worst? I'm not trying to dog any of the actors did fine. The acting is fine. It's just I just don't care for the story.
Yeah. In fact, the woman who plays Becky, she's genuinely unsettling. She's a little bit channeling Kathy Bates in Misery.
Very much so, yeah.
But she's just got a good that really sweet lady that you can tell something's bad under the surface.
Right. There's evil lurking beneath her.
Yeah, and I really like what she's doing, but where it ends up going, the setup is actually it has merit, but yeah, it falls apart at the end. I didn't really like
Right.
Where
well, a lot of the setup, honestly, the PETA stand-in, whatever, and it's like, okay, but they also are trying to save these dogs that literally are this own woman's property. Like,
right, yeah. Of all things for like an activist, like so. What we start with here, I guess, is we get a commercial for the Doggy Dream House, which is this thing that Becky runs out of her home that is a kennel,
grooming,
a spa, grooming, an obedience school. It's just kind of like all sorts of pet care or dog care specifically. It doesn't seem like she has anything to do with cats or whatever.
Just dogs.
Just kind of all rolled into one. But the thing that they're so we get a little like YouTube video ad for this, and they're upset because at the end of the video she's standing in front of a mantle where there's 3 small dogs that have been taxidermied.
You mean mutilated dog corpses, Anthony? Gosh.
And like there's plenty of real animal crimes to be upset about. But this is it's corpses.
Yeah.
She like who cares?
Yeah, I mean these dogs probably lived really good lives and died.
Yeah. I mean, I personally wouldn't taxidermy a pet. I do find it a little weird, but I don't think there's anything morally wrong with it. It's just, to me, a strange way to try to pay tribute to a pet that you loved. Yeah. But if it works for this lady, more power to her.
Like, the thing is, I want to know more about Becky and less about anything else around Becky because, like, she has so much stuff going on. Like, we're going to talk about her brother, Beau, but there's something going on with Beau. There's something that happened to her husband. And I want to know more about her and less about these other idiots.
Like, obviously, because this is a horror story, we'll eventually find out there is some fucked up stuff going on in Becky's world. But
let's talk more about the
impetus for getting the protagonist to her.
I want to say air quotes, hard air quotes on that.
Yeah, it does. It's just, it would make more sense if the premise here was like family members of missing people being like, like going into her facility thinking she had something to do with it or whatever. But the whole taxidermy thing just feels really weak. Yeah. And so it just feels like a non-starter right away. Like I'm not bought into the premise.
Right. I think the taxidermy thing does come back, obviously, in a very interesting way. But so the idea is the cruise leader, Miles, is going to use his dog, Pickles, as a bait dog, but they're going to send in this girl named Angela, this guy named Stu, and they're going to act as a couple to get dirt on Becky. Once again, stupid as shit. Why would you send in people literally trespassing on this woman's property?
And I mean, if they think the problem is taxidermy, they already have the proof, and nobody cares about that. Like, they're not going to get authorities. Like, it just feels so thin. Like why they're there and what they think they're going to accomplish.
Literally, it's just, hey, let's feed these people into the wood chipper, right?
And so, of course, we have them going in, doing their thing. And she's giving him a tour, and right away, I mean, she seems a little off, but also she seems suspicious. She knows something's off about them too, and like they quickly fuck up. Stu ends up like
Well, Angela laughs at her, like mockingly laughs at her when she's talking about her dog Robert. But did you notice that Becky also spikes each camera?
Yes. Yeah. So Pickles is inside a little dog carrier, and there's a camera on that. And we'll eventually get a moment where she kneels down to talk directly to Pickles, and then looks right at the camera and just freezes for a couple seconds, and then has a face like, okay, I know what's up, but I'm gonna act cool about it, and stands up and starts talking to them again. Stu ends up like kind of yelling at her about the taxidermy, and then when Angela tries to get him to calm down, she accidentally calls him Stu instead of Tom, his fake name.
Right. Why would you go with why not just use Stu if you guys are that stupid?
Yeah. And she tries to like play it off. She's like, his real name is Tom, but it's a pet name. And she's like, oh, I don't
like pet names.
In fact, if Pickles was my dog, I would give him a strong, human name like Henry or Julius.
Yeah, do you like Julius?
Yeah, and then from there, like I did like this just subtly. From now on, she's just going to call him Julius. She's never going to say Pickles again.
Right. But she does say, "Hey, let me continue the tour here," right?
Yeah.
Well, she talks about her dog Gary sacrificing his life for her. We're going to get another Gary, but it's not quite the same Gary, right?
And we also, at some point in here, they ask her if she lives alone, and she says she does. But then when she continues the tour, they walk past a doorway, and there's just a guy sitting at a table, just kind of like zoned out.
Well, does he bark at them?
There's a bark sound, and it was like it's done well enough where it's like, could it have been him? Could it have? Maybe there's a dog we don't see.
Pickles.
But either way, yeah, they're like, wait, who's that? And she's like, oh, yeah, that's my brother Bo. I forget.
He doesn't talk much since the accident.
Yeah, we used to.
What?
Yeah, we used to argue a lot when we were younger. We would just bark and growl at each other all the time.
Right. She says specifically he would go grrr and I would go grrr. Right. Like not like they were humans, but like they were dogs, of course.
Yeah. And so she takes them downstairs and goes, kind of continues the tour. We have a little training area. The basement is poorly lit and a little creepy, but mostly like to start with, it's like, okay, yeah, this is where you would train. It's a little, like a fenced off area of the basement. Then you have like a grooming station. Sure. Okay.
But hey, what's that thing there with all the scalpels and the wire and stuff?
Yeah, and she says, "Oh, this is my taxidermy station. This is where I."
Well, arts and crafts is what she says.
Yeah, and then she's like, "But here, let me show you the last room, the most important one. It's the timeout area for naughty dogs who sneak into people's spaces and ask rude questions.
Naughty dogs like you two. Dun dun dun." And then Bo comes up and gives them a rag of chloroform to the face.
Yeah, she pulls back the curtain and we see there's a one of the big sized dog crates. Like
a guy says, "Help me."
Yeah, there's a guy in it, and yeah, then they get chloroformed, and so then.
But she smacks his cage and says, "Hey, don't use human words. Speak like you are. You're a dog."
Yeah. So then we get Bo is dragging Stuart away. Angela tries to get Julius Pickles free, and then we just cut to later. There's voicemail recordings.
It's Idiot Miles is what I call him.
Yeah, this seems like, already their whole plan has been dumb as hell. This is even dumber. He starts calling Becky, threatening her that they've got missing people and they know she's involved, and if she doesn't respond and let them know what's happening, they're gonna call the police.
Yeah, we'll get the police involved. Okay, she could call them for you harassing her. What the fuck, dude?
So then we get, now of course we don't have the activist's camera, so we now have Becky's camera as
her
the
vlog.
POV. Yeah, and she's talking about that. She's got all these projects going.
Right, she's got these new pieces for her new transitions.
Mm-hmm.
It's almost like they're becoming transgender, right?
Yeah,
but trans species.
Yeah, so she's Bo is exhuming dogs that they have buried, and they're using the parts. And in the same way that she just starts calling Pickles Julius, she now is looking at Angela, and she's calling her Cynthia.
Right, and she's renamed Stuart to Marcus.
Mm-hmm. And so she has. So Angela has a lower jaw has been surgically grafted, like a dog jaw.
She tusked them. She tusked them, yeah.
Mm-hmm. It's very, very much like Tusk, which is a movie that we still need to get to. I've been putting it off, but
yep.
we'll
probably for the exact same reasons. No.
Yes. So yeah, Angela has the jaw. Meanwhile, Stuart has.
I like how she says, "You just got to adjust. You just have to adjust, like I did when my husband died." What happened to your husband, man?
Mm-hmm. And with Angela, the other thing is she makes her speak, quote unquote speak, with bark, and gives her a treat, and she's trying to...
Don't use please. That's a false human words that humans use when they're trying to act nice.
Mm-hmm. And so when she does just bark, Becky gives her a treat, which it like hurts her to eat because she's had jaw surgery, and she's like, well, if you if you keep behaving, eventually the treats will just be a good thing and you won't have any pain eating them. And then we see Stuart, his procedure is that he has had like dog paws grafted on top of his own hands.
But his hands have been bit in a way that he's going to have to walk on them very uncomfortably, I'm sure, for a while.
Yeah. And so that, he's having to learn to shake like a dog. And then we hear a commotion upstairs as Miles and the other idiot activists
so stupid.
break into...
With a camera crew. What?
Yeah. So they break into the house. They're, running around. They don't see anything, of course, because everybody's downstairs.
Well, one guy, this is once again kind of a boomer thing, right? One guy's like, well, why don't we just call the cops? And one of the other idiots is like, because the cops are a bunch of fascists, right, Miles? Yeah, okay, buddy. I mean, I get it. You're not wrong, but also, you're in a real gray area, bro.
Yeah. We really just need an excuse to get more people into the wood chipper, as you said. Angela calls for help, and they hear her through the floor. So now they head downstairs. Of course, they stumble upon Stuart and Angela, all mutilated and, half dog or whatever.
And they're like, what the fuck? And that's at the point that we are introduced to Abraham and the new Gary.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so Becky releases... and basically is sick 'em, and it's full hybrid now. They're they've had the jaws and the paws and tails, and
I'm gonna assume the fur as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So they attack and kill the activists. Basically acting like dogs. They rip out their throats and claw at them and everything.
Yeah. Do you think she spayed and neutered them? That's rough, bro.
Yeah, that seems likely based on everything else. So then our last thing we have, I guess in the commercial at the beginning, one of the things she says is, if you're a helicopter parent and want to know how your dog's doing at the daycare, we equip them with collar cams so you can see what they're seeing all day. So that's our last POV is the Gary dog. Playing upstairs by himself, just in the play place area.
Drinking his water.
Mm-hmm. And then we get the doorbell rings. Or no, it's not the doorbell. We see through the ring cam, we see a guy, a porch pirate basically, trying to steal Amazon packages off of Becky's porch. Gary just bursts through and just kills him right in the front yard, just rips him to shreds. And that's how this one ends, is this, now on the loose Gary... having murdered out in broad daylight in public. So presumably people are going to see this and Becky's going to, something's going to happen.
Right. The moment it actually gets really interesting is the moment they decide to end this one.
Yeah, I don't know, like you said, it just felt like this had some interesting ideas. It just wasn't executed well. And yeah, I don't know, just the dog hybrid thing, there was no real reason for her to do this. There was no explanation for why she's doing this.
Yeah.
She's clearly obsessed with dogs. You just adopt more dogs. You just keep taxidermying the ones you love. I guess she thinks this is a way for her to make those dead dogs live on.
I guess either that or to correct the human element and make them more docile. She seems like a control freak, let's be honest. I mean,
yeah,
that would be an interesting part of her character, right?
Yeah, again, it's she's the interesting thing, and we don't really get anything about what's going on with her. We have no real backstory. We have all these weird hints. What happened to Bo? What happened to her husband? How did she get to this place where she went from regular taxidermy to tusking people?
Right.
Yeah, it felt like everything interesting about this is not present. It's all, you're having to make it up on your own.
It's a setup, right? It's a setup for a better movie.
Yeah. So just kind of disappointing. Definitely the weakest of Beyond, as you said. I guess other than the wraparounds.
The abduction. Yeah, that was pretty good. Really, the whole payoff for that was just what? The alien is putting anal beads into the guy?
Yeah, they're it's like an ovipositor thing or whatever. They're just putting eggs in this person. But yeah, mostly the wraparound here is just like various UFO experts just talking. Like, it's kind of disconnected. It doesn't feel very cohesive.
I think it would have paid off more if the ending had been more interesting.
Yeah. So it's not the strongest. And I know that they've announced the next VHS is just called VHS 8, which I
don't know if that bodes well or bad.
Yeah, because I mean the year ones, what made them strong was like that they had something kind of holding them together. And I mean, even this Beyond, like theoretically holding it together is this sort of like sci-fi alien kind of aspect. Although then Fur Babies is not that at all.
Right, not aliens.
So, which is when it kind of loses its, I guess even Dream Girl is just kind of sci-fi and not really alien. So yeah, just being called 8, I mean, I guess that opens it up to more flexibility, but also makes it more likely to just not feel as well put together.
Yeah, no, I would have to say VHS is the strongest when it has a theme. And that's not just VHS tapes.
Yeah, so we'll see. Hopefully there will be something interesting, but I'm a little skeptical about that one, especially considering that this one is one of the more weak ones we've had in a while. Yeah.
Well, the fact that they're now becoming yearly is also a scary thing. I don't know if anyone else agrees with me exactly, but once Saw became a yearly thing, it kind of lost any impact it once had.
Yeah. The Saw franchise is a very interesting mess.
It sure is.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think there's really anything in the Saw universe that would like lead to us needing to talk about it for the Frankencast, which is kind of good and bad. Like, it would be interesting to try to do a deep dive on that, but also it would be the timeline there is so messy that it would be quite a challenge to try to really talk about it with any kind of authority. So I'm kind of glad we're not gonna have to do that.
I don't know. I do want to see John Kramer versus Becky. Becky Baxter.
Yeah, that would be fun. Becky wearing a backwards hat and trying to look like a teen for some reason, like that.
Yeah, exactly. Hello, fellow teens.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
All right. So, I mean, anything else we got to say about that?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's it. This was, I guess, is a little bit more format-breaking episode. I guess we did that last week as well, but...
Well, do we want to give it a rating, or at least a ranking, in our opinion? Just to make it feel whole?
Yeah, I think that seems fair.
So let's start at the bottom and work our way up, right? We know at the very bottom we have Fur Babies. So what's the next step up from Fur Babies?
I mean, honestly, it might still be it might be Dream Girls as much as or Dream Girl as much as I thought that was a lot stronger than Fur Babies. I feel like clinical trials I think that got some interesting stuff.
Yeah.
The subject. Yeah, I mean, I would say Dream Girl and TKNOGD being as short as it is. Honestly, it's almost like in the reverse order of what we talked about. Like,
oh, okay.
I don't know. I think the subject might be a little stronger than clinical trials. But yeah, beyond that, I would say the subject is just, it's so crazy. It's so wild. It's a lot of fun. I like the format there with like, it being very video game like. It's just kind of a wild ride. And the clinical trials I just thought was an interesting concept of like connecting with ghosts and everything through a cybernetic implant. I just thought that was kind of fun.
Yeah, I would have to say that I would almost like be lockstep with you. I would switch Dream Girl and TKNOGD. I felt TKNOGD was a little. Maybe it was just because I know some people that are like the theater kids that did the black box theater acting and all that stuff, and then I was like, eh.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think I would put Dream Girl above that.
Yeah, I think you're right there. Like TKNOGD, and TKNOGD I think is one of probably the shortest segment we watched.
Yeah. Now, if there was more to it and like we learned more about Ada, I think it would be probably a more fleshed out and more filling segment.
Yeah, I mean it is pretty straightforward. Like there's basically she creates the tulpa and gets killed. Like it's
By the tulpa.
It's basically
Yeah.
a joke. There's like the setup and the punchline, the end.
It's a pretty good punchline, but yeah.
Yeah. Whereas Dream Girl has a little bit more going on, and we get the action sequence with Dream Girl is fun. It's kind of similar to the subject, honestly. Like the last bit of it is just, like a roller coaster ride video game kind of rails setup where you just have them running and
Very
being
much
chased and murders happening, and and those I think are also, I feel like that's a sort of a staple of the VHS setup. Like it's a thing that couldn't be sustained for a whole ass movie.
You're right.
But it works in this short setting, and it's fun. Although I say that, but I guess we did mention that it's very similar to Frankenstein's Army, which is a whole movie.
Should it have been? Is the question now?
Yeah, maybe that, because I feel like we kind of liked Frankenstein Army, but felt like it got a little tedious, and thus, here these shorts are a little bit stronger.
Yeah, I honestly would like to see the clinical trials actually become its own movie.
Yeah,
that has some legs on it for sure.
There's definitely, and the fact that we had both like an ear implant and an eye implant, allowing different things. Like, there's a lot of room for that.
Is there a nose implant or a tongue implant? Like all the senses. Can you taste ghosts? Do you want to?
Yeah, and maybe it's just the I see dead people aspect of it, but it does seem like something that M. Night Shyamalan could have like done something interesting with, which I feel like some of his recent stuff has been. It feels like he needs somebody else to kind of focus him. So maybe if he had been given a story like this, maybe he could have like cooked up something a little bit more compelling.
All right. Well, anything else we have to say about it?
I think that's it.
So, Anthony, we've looked back into the past with the VHS series and the current time. So how about we look slightly into the future? ? With a new Megan Fox property.
Yeah, this is, I guess, it's been a little while since we've seen Megan Fox on the screen. I guess the Ninja Turtles movies might have been the last thing she did.
Wow. After Jennifer's Body, yeah.
But yeah, she just recently had a movie that I think went straight to streaming that just came out like a week or two ago. That seems like it may be in the vein of like an Ex Machina or Megan. It's a little AI kind of stuff, but it looks fun. It looks like it's going to be a little Frankenstein-y. So I thought let's see what Megan Fox has got to say in the Frankenstein realm. So this movie is Subservience. So yep, we'll be talking about that next week.
Very interesting. All right, well, Anthony, where can they find us?
So you can find us on all the socials, including TikTok.
Woo! We have a couple videos there now.
Yeah, we're finally making more use of it, so we'd love to see you over there. You can also find us on YouTube or email us at thefrankencast@gmail.com. And of course, also we're at patreon.com/thefrankencast, where we're always doing new stuff, and we've got still got the free trials and the new sort of a la carte thing where you can buy sort of passes to certain series of things we've discussed on there. So we'd love to have you over there, in whatever way works best for you.
Absolutely. Yeah, check us out. There's a lot of fun things happening over there. Well, anything else we got?
I think that's it.
Well, in that case, to be continued.
Looks like you survived another episode. The Frankencast is a production of FCR Media. It's hosted by Anthony Bowman and Eric Velasquez. Follow us on Twitter at The Frankencast, or send us a letter at thefrankencast@gmail.com. Our cover art is by Amanda Keller. You can find her at Keller Illustrations on Instagram. Our theme music is by Vivek Abhishek. Thanks for listening.